I'm not here today to lecture. I am not here today to tell you what to do. When I was your age, I'll never forget, we had this speaker, this presenter who came into my school. He was this big, tall guy. Well, he got up on stage, and this is what he said for, like an hour. This is the truth. He said, don't do drugs. Don't drink alcohol, because if you do, you will die. And that's all he said, and I remember sitting there thinking, what's up with this guy? So I'm not here today to tell you what to do. What you do with your body and your life is your choice. Life is all about choices. So today, I'm going to share a couple of stories. I am going to share some really neat information about the dangers of drugs and alcohol. And then I have to be honest, I'm going to show you in detail what happens to your body if you should end up in the emergency room. Now, on the topic of alcohol, I could tell you all kinds of stories. I could tell you drinking and driving stories, alcohol poisoning stories, pretty common name, Jessica. Well, Jessica's friend, now, he was not her boyfriend, but Jessica's friend's name was Tony. Pretty common name, Tony, for a boy or a girl, Tony. Well, this was interesting. One weekend, Tony's parents had gone away for the weekend. Tony decided he was going to have this party. He had a bunch of friends over. His friend Jessica came over. Well, she walked in the door, and he stuck a beer into her hand. She turned to him and she said, gee, thanks for inviting me, but I didn't plan on drinking, but thanks for inviting me. Well, he turns around to his buddies and he says, hey guys, heads up. Jessica doesn't want to drink. What do you think? She's a wimp? Well, the last thing she wanted was for these guys not to like her. She took the beer and drank it, and she drank some more. And after a little while, she turned to her friend Tony and she said, you know, I don't feel good. And he said, well, what do you mean, like you're going to throw up? And she said, I don't know, my head feels funny. I don't feel good. I'm going to go and sit down. So she went down this hallway in his house. She went into her bedroom. She sat down on the bed. She laid back. She passed out. And she threw up. And she choked on her vomit. She suffocated and asphyxiated on her vomit. Her friends found her. They did the right thing. They called 911. I will never forget the day that she was brought into the emergency room. In the ambulance came those paramedics and EMTs were performing CPR. Well, I hopped up. I actually hopped right up on the stretcher, and I continued those, those chest compressions, and that life-saving code went on for what seemed like hours. It was probably about 25 minutes, but it seemed like hours, and she died. And I have to tell you, it was very, very sad. Working in the emergency room, well, we see all kinds of things. We see broken bones. Years ago, you were considered like the scumbag, low-life, bottom-of-the-barrel person because to do these drugs, and I'm talking about the serious illegal street drugs, you used to have to take a syringe, stick a needle in your vein, but that's all changed. These drug dealers come into town. They will come into Fairbury, Nebraska. They will walk up to you and say, you don't have to stick a syringe in your vein to do drugs. You don't have to stick a syringe in your vein, a needle in your vein. You can swallow it, snort it, smoke it, and then they'll say, let me give you some for free to try it. And you take these drugs, they're so addictive, you want to do it over and over, only next time it's not free, very expensive. These drug dealers are much smarter and trickier than they used to be. And the street drugs themselves, they are much stronger chemically. That's a fact, much stronger chemically. Now, I would like to show you what happens when you make poor choices and end up in the emergency room. And this is so interesting, so fascinating. When a drug overdose or alcohol poisoning patient comes in, Well, the doctor, he or she, has to make this decision, this big decision. The doctor decides whether we choose plan A or plan B. Now, that doctor chooses plan A, if they think that whatever you've taken, whatever you've swallowed, whatever's in your stomach, well, it's probably going to make you feel sick, but not cause serious damage. Plan B is chosen if that doctor thinks that whatever you've taken, whatever you've swallowed, whatever's in your stomach, could make you feel very sick or kill you. But let's go back to plan A. Starting with plan A, what plan A involves is drinking charcoal. And one time a student said, charcoal? Well, what do you mean, like barbecue charcoal? And I said, no, it's not barbecue charcoal. It's actually called activated charcoal. Activated charcoal, it is sent to the emergency room in a tube like this. Now this charcoal is, well, it's liquid, it's thick, it's black, it's really gritty. It's kind of like, well, I have some here in a bag that's all dried up. It's kind of like if you could imagine having a milkshake with no flavor, and then you throw in a bunch of beach sand, driveway gravel, and you have to drink it. In fact, you have to drink 2 cups full. Now the charcoal is amazing. What it does is it helps to bind or neutralize whatever's in your stomach. It kind of collects it up like a magnet and helps it to pass quickly out of your body. So just imagine, flush the charcoal down, but it's also done if that doctor decides that whatever you've taken is so dangerous, we need to get your stomach contents out. This process is called gastric lavage, pumping your stomach, and I have to be honest, we usually go with B. We usually go with plan B. We need to do everything we can to save your life. Now, before I explain this any further, I would end. Could you imagine waking up the next morning, finding out that your friend had died, and it was something that you could have prevented? Could you imagine living with that your whole life? So please remember that you have the power to save your friend's life. Patient, what we demonstrated with Cody sitting here in the chair and Kiana helping. The first picture is very faded, but see how his eyes are blacked out? That's because of confidentiality. We have to tie you down. Well, when you think about it, nobody's going to come in and say, okay, put this big tube in my stomach. No one's going to say that, so usually we have to tie you down. And then this guy started getting scared and kicking. He started kicking at us. So we strapped down his legs. And then, this is a little bit gross, but then he threw up. We had even started pumping his stomach and he threw up everywhere. Now here's one putting the tube in, and another one putting the tube in. And another one full of the liquid charcoal. And I'm flushing the charcoal through the tube into the stomach, and that charcoal always makes a mess. No matter what we do, that charcoal always makes a mess. Now this is the last slide from age 30 to age 40 after making poor choices with drugs. She was at age 30, 32. Yeah, you may have seen these before. They've been around for a while. They've been around for a while, but they're always worth seeing again. 34. 36. Now she's actually looking pretty good here. I mean, her eye makeup, her mascara is smudged, but she's looking okay. It is the next one where you see the first really big change. Is that amazing? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Now, I was in a school one time. And the student came up to me. I know. Student came up to me, and I'll never forget, he said, that lady in the pictures, he said, what was up with her cheeks all sunken in? See how her cheeks are sunken in? Well, what these drugs do, they make your teeth and your gums just deteriorate. In fact, I asked the doctor in the emergency room that I work in, I said, okay, you know that I do these presentations. How can I explain to students what these drugs do to your body? This doctor looked at me and he started laughing. He started laughing at me. He said, Linda, it is so simple. He said, these drugs just rot your body from the inside out. So I guarantee at age 40, she no longer had any teeth, no teeth. Here she is, age 30 to age 40. Oh, and then I was in the school and someone said, how on earth did you ever get so many pictures of one woman? Pretty sad. These are all mug shots. She was arrested so many times, and there were five more pictures of her arrest that I didn't use. Isn't that amazing? Okay, the next group shows before and after. I don't have the in-between shots, but before and after. And you'll notice in the lower left, there is a sheriff's badge. None of these people are deputies for the sheriff's department. It's just the department that took the pictures, and they wanted to get credit, so you'll see that. So there's before, and there's after. There's before. Oh, let me go back one. So besides causing your teeth and gums to rot, these drugs cause sores, horrible, hideous sores all over your body. There's before. This woman is she's probably about my age, I would guess. This woman I thought was very pretty. I noticed she has, I like to wear makeup and do my hair. I do. I like makeup, not everyone does. So I noticed that this woman has mascara, eyeliner, lipstick. Her hair is nice and smooth. Here she is just a few years later after making poor choices with drugs. Okay, the last group of pictures show how drugs affect your body in particular. So I'd like to explain it first before it shows how the drugs affect your mouth in particular. But I'd like to explain it first because someone always asks, they'll say, okay, I don't get it. Why would street drugs make your teeth and gums rot? It doesn't make sense. Well, it's true. Over the course of years, people who do these street drugs, their teeth and their gums just deteriorate. Well, for the science teachers here, you'll really like this. It's actually very medical, but very simple. So I'm going to explain it first. These drugs make your mouth dry, super dry. Well, if your mouth is dry, there's no saliva or spit. If there's no saliva, there's no enzymes. You need enzymes to kill bacteria. Bacteria causes tooth decay, and your teeth rot. Then, of course, there's other factors. Poor hygiene, poor nutrition. Those things also affect your teeth and gums. I have to be honest, people who do drugs for a long time, they don't care about brushing their teeth. They don't care about eating healthy. But the biggest reason that drug users have rotted teeth and gums is because their mouth gets so dry. Now, you might be thinking, please remember these pictures. So gross. Isn't it just so gross? Now this last one, this is the last one, and this is actually, it's actually my favorite. And I know, one time someone said, why on earth would you have a favorite of these pictures? Well, from a medical perspective, being a nurse, from a medical perspective, I cannot understand for the life of me why those teeth are still in that mouth. It makes no sense. So once again, please always get help for your friends, and please remember, that you have the power to make good choices, and no one can take that away from you. Thank you so much.